Good evening and welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I am Jennifer Fitcher, one of the counselors at Hinsdale South. I'm joined by some of my other counseling teammates, if you will, who will be speaking in a little bit. Before we start, I wanted to talk about the format for tonight. So the first half hour will be the counseling staff members from Hinsdale South, some of us. And then the second 30 minutes will be college admissions representatives on a panel. They are the experts themselves from the colleges who will be giving information about their schools and also representing the category from their school. So thanks again tonight for coming. On this next slide that you're going to see in just a second, is a QR code. There it is, a QR code of our college planning guide. All students will get a copy of this, a paper copy, a printed copy, at their junior planning conference. You all received an email with an invitation inviting you to either attend in person at Hinsdale South or via Zoom with your student. Actually, I'm sorry, it's a Google Meet. So your student, regardless, will be in the counseling office at South, meeting with the counselor for that junior conference. And then if parents are able to either come in for that meeting or join on the Google Meets, that is great. But a copy of the college planning guide will be distributed to your student no matter what at that junior planning conference. And this QR code, though, also will take you to that online version of the planning guide. If you're wondering what the college planning guide is, it is a really great starting point, a great resource, if you will. We revisit it and review it every year to make it as up to date as possible. Of course, college admissions is always changing. It's very fluid, but our guide, we're very confident, is up to date currently. We're going to go over a lot of information tonight, so it'll be helpful to have a resource like the college planning guide to refresh your memory, revisit a resource, or to dig deeper into a particular topic that we're talking about this evening. We break the college application into 3 phases. You'll hear counselors at South talk about these 3 phases throughout the entire process with you and your student. So right now, we are beginning the exploration phase. Well, I guess technically a lot of you maybe have already been in that phase, but now we're really diving in to the exploration phase, being in springtime of junior year. So the goal is that students are developing a big list with their families, maybe 30 to 40 schools. And great tools to do that are in everything listed on there. It's School Links, which we'll talk about briefly, and we'll also revisit at the Junior Planning Conference. Your students have been using this program. There's also college rep visits, our college fair, campus visits. I mentioned the Junior Planning Conference and net price calculators. We're going to talk about all of those things tonight. So I know I went over that quickly, but I promise you we'll touch on each one of those. Ultimately, that big list of 30 to 40, you're going to narrow it down based on what you're looking for, and ultimately have a smaller list. And that'll be when we begin the application phase during senior year, the student senior year. Applications typically open on or around August 1st. That's just a general statement. There are some that are open later, some that might open a little bit sooner, but typically August 1st is when applications open. I get that question asked often. And so that list will be about 4 to 8 schools at the end of the day, making sure, though, that you have what we call a clear admit. I know if I apply to fill in the blank, this school, I am going to be accepted. That's a clear admit for me. A match school is something, I look at the data of what they're typically admitting the profile of that student as far as test scores and GPA and rigor. And that's a match for me. That's a match school I'm pretty confident I'm going to get in. And then we encourage students, if you want to apply to a reach school or two, meaning the sky is the limit. I'm going to apply to my ultimate dream school. The acceptance rate is very small, but I'm going to apply to that reach school and see what happens. So that'll start when we begin school senior year. When we begin school in the fall for senior year, that begins the application phase. We do what's called a senior seminar with all of the seniors. The counselors will meet again with just the students this time and talk about the application phase and what that looks like. How do we get the materials from Hinsdale South to the universities? And that'll all make more sense. We're not going to get into that until the fall. But we will go over that with your student. And then ultimately, we get into the decision phase where your student is deciding. And you have until May 1st of senior year to make your final choice. And I have students, and we all do, who are deciding, that last minute in April. But you do have until May 1st. And a lot of pieces go into that. You're waiting for those financial aid award letters and maybe visiting the college again. But again, you have until May 1st to make your decision. We talk about three lenses for college exploration, and we break it into three different perspectives. So we've got the academic fit, the financial fit, and the feeling fit. And then ultimately, as you can see from this graphic, all of those lenses are overlapping into your students or your family's best fit. And so tonight, each of the counselors presenting tonight are going to talk about these different fits: academic fit, feeling fit, and financial fit. And to start us off with academic fit is Hinsdale South counselor Jim Dickerson.
Thank you. Good evening. It's fit is a perfect description, and I always start with a metaphor. One of my first jobs actually was as a salesman at a running shoe store, and sometimes people would come in and they would say, "What's your best pair of running shoes?" And I would say, "Well, it depends. It depends on so many different factors." And so I couldn't just say this is the best factor. It all came down to fit for them. Well, college, albeit a lot different than a running shoe, same situation. So if we move along to the next slide, we see that what I'm going to be talking about is academic fit. So on the left-hand column, what this means is, do you match the academic profile? Like Ms. Fitcher said, reach, match, clear, admit. She went over that. I won't go through that again, but filling in the different schools that meet your criteria. How do you know? Well, I'll get into that in a bit. In the middle there, does the college have the academic programs you need, the majors? This is really, really important. I myself went to a small liberal arts school, North Central College in Naperville, Illinois. Wonderful school. If I, at the time, had wanted to be an engineer, that would not have been the right school for me because they did not have the program. So it's very important to make sure, obviously, that the program your student is interested in is in the college and you feel good with that program. And then finally, do you anticipate academic success at the institution? Sometimes people just look at rankings, or they look at like the hardest to get into and they say these are the best. But the reality is you have to know yourself as a student, or you have to know your son or daughter. Where do they thrive the most? Are they one of the top students at that college? That may give them a lot of opportunities, a lot of confidence. Did they just get in, and is that the rigor they're looking for? Are they going to be okay with a lot of peers who are, perhaps somewhat intimidating academically? And then in the middle, you have, the best of both worlds. Now, the reality is, in college, very rarely will a student feel that they are the top or the bottom or anything like that. There's a lot of students, people make decisions based on so many factors that there's no right answer to this. It's based on feel, really, which is a different category. But there's no right answer. But people are really, the student is more important than the college they pick, to be honest. And the college is just a vehicle to get them to success. All right, next, please. All right, so how do you find all these colleges? There are, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe there are over 3,000 four-year colleges and universities in the United States of America. How do you sift through all that? The funnel, here's another metaphor. The funnel is a great way to look at this. In your traditional college search, you can divide 2-year or 4-year. We have a 2-year school here on the panel, College of DuPage, wonderful institution. If you are looking for 2-year, you can probably in most cases stop there because that's our local district college, and it's very, very good. If you're looking at 4-year schools, it becomes a lot more complicated. And even sometimes 2-year schools. You look at location, you look at the size, the majors, like we talked about, extracurriculars that are important, whether or not they're involved or whether or not they're just interested. I hear students sometimes say, I need to go to football games on Saturdays, things like that. Others, I know that's kind of a generic term, but there could be other factors that are really important. And then finally, you're going to end up with a list of schools. So this brings that number 3,000. Who knows what it's going to end up? It could be 5, it could be 30, but it's much better than looking at the vast plethora of schools out there. So we have a tool called School Links. The students have been introduced to it. We'll go over it at the junior planning conferences, which are coming up soon. These are live screenshots of School Links. So if you have any older siblings, just replace Naviance, and we feel it's an upgrade over Naviance in most regards, but it does a lot of the same things. So what we're looking at is kind of a splash page here. There are 134 schools that we're kind of starting off on the filter. And then our intern, Mr. Mastari, put together this awesome live demo here of he did a search. So we have over 1,000 schools, and we're going to narrow it down. We're going to look at 4-year school. Okay, these are the other options. Don't check what's not that important to you. But if some of these are super important, then go ahead and check them, obviously. All right, so campus location, is it important to this person? They want a city or town or a country rural area, which didn't really narrow it down, but you see what it can do. And small, medium, so you can check more than one, which is good because sometimes you're not really sure. But if you look underneath, there's no rhyme or reason necessarily to who the top colleges are, other than in some cases, and our college panelist probably knows this more than I do, they may have worked out a deal with School Links if they go to the top. But it's not alphabetical or anything like that, or certainly not by, ranking. But we're just seeing the top row. So there's obviously, right now, we're down to 570 schools, including Elmhurst and Benedictine, which are our local awesome liberal arts colleges. So we're looking at degree type now. We went through sports. We went through acceptance level, which can tell you, again, is this a reach school? Is this more of a safety school in some cases? All right, now we're looking at majors. You can just type it in on the search bar. They're looking at nursing. As you see, we're down to 300. We've got Dominican, Concordia, both in beautiful River Forest, Illinois. All right, and then I love this distance from you. Okay, you can look up graduation rate, expected family contribution. Now, FAFSA actually changed this term, and I'm sure School Links will catch up with it, but you can type in an income level, and what this does, and this does not replace net price calculators, which Mr. Eubanks will talk about, but it kind of gives, I don't know if you can see it, it's kind of small print, but next to each college, it says EFC, and it gives a number, like 25,000, I believe, for Benedictine. The price tag on Benedictine is twice that, but that just shows under certain income levels. The average student sometimes, I can tell you for sure that most students at Benedictine don't pay anywhere near the $50,000. And again, this can get complicated, which is why the net price calculator part is really important. Okay, so we're going to look at a few schools here. And again, this student is finding some matches that are awesome. Okay, if we go to the next slide, we picked out a few schools that kind of fit for our sample student. Thank you. That page is hard to get off. All right. The more what we would call a reach, a safety, although I don't love that word always, and then one in the middle. So we're looking at Illinois State University, down the road in Normal, Illinois, large state university. A lot of our students go there. Okay, next we have, and you see the splash page, it shows acceptance rate, things like that. But we love what's called the scattergram. So if you click on scattergram, what's great about this, these are our school stats. And on the right, you can click on district data and you can add Hinsdale Central in there and get even more great information. But these are actual statistics, so you can plot your GPA on our scale. You don't have to do any math, subtract a point, anything like that. So on a 5-point scale, the average admitted school from our student from our school at Illinois State was about a 4.6 GPA, and on the bottom, around an 1100 SAT. Now, Illinois State happens to be test optional. I won't even get into that at this point. But what this shows is students who are at this student who, I don't have the stats here, but let's say your student has a 4.5 GPA and a 1000 SAT, surrounded by green. All right, that's good. All right, that's a school that is a likely admit. Now, Illinois State is fairly selective. You see some red there, even up in the B average, which means, it's not by any means open admission. All right. Next, we have the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, otherwise known as the U of I. Now, what's interesting about this is, again, we've got tons of school data because it's our flagship state school, lots and lots of applicants. It is kind of unpredictable. And that's why we wouldn't consider this a sure admit for pretty much anybody. They also delineate by what major you're applying to, sometimes what college within the university you're applying to. So even though it looks like all green on the top red, sometimes a problem if a school gets too many applicants is it kind of blotches out some red, and some programs like computer science and some engineering programs can get very hard to get into at the University of Illinois. So this is one that for the vast majority of our students, go for it. As you see, they admit a lot of different students at the same time. This would not be considered a safety school for pretty much anybody. So it's good data. And then finally, we have one of my alma maters, Northern Illinois University. I got my master's degree from there. Wonderful school in DeKalb, Illinois, about an hour away. As you see, it is not full open admission. We see some red on there. However, of these three schools, if the student is a B+ average, it's probably more what we would traditionally call a safety school. Like, we're pretty confident they're getting into Northern Illinois University with those statistics. But again, wonderful school. And what this also can tie into is not just academic fit. This student also likely, although there are a lot of factors, but likely would get the most scholarship money from Northern Illinois University. Middle would be Illinois State University, and least would be the University of Illinois. All right, next, please. All right, we're gonna go ahead and pass it on to Mr. Eubanks for financial fit.
Thank you, Mr. Dickerson. So my name is Hank Eubanks, and I am one of the school counselors also at Hinsdale South, and I am going to discuss the financial fit piece. And the main thing I want to touch base with everybody is to make sure you're aware of the concept of net price calculators. Okay, so I believe it was back in 2011, the federal government mandated all colleges put a net price calculator on their website so that families can get an idea of the cost of college, of a particular college on the front end of the process. So that's really what the purpose of a net price calculator is. Prior to 2011, the net price always came at the end of the process, which made it kind of confusing and for families in terms of determining affordability. So we also encourage families to have conversations with their students about, your family income situation, what you can afford, what you're willing to borrow, and those types of things. And those are all very personal and private conversations. But we want to show, an example of a net price calculator if we can move to the next slide. Okay, so we picked our flagship school, University of Illinois. And the net price calculators generally tend to ask for a number of different inputs when you engage with a net price calculator. For example, typically they'll ask for family size. Typically they'll ask for adjusted gross income on a family tax return, and they also will ask what your total assets are. And we've made a fictitious individual, a family of three with $85,000 adjusted gross income with a total of 5,000 assets. So and put them into the U of I's net price calculator, and some good information comes up from inputting that data in. Like I said, we did this with the U of I. And you can see that down at the bottom, the cost of attendance is listed there, and we refer to that as a sticker price. And once the net price calculator does its calculations, according to this particular family, it is allotting the family about $16,659 in grant and scholarship aid, which would create a net price. So you take $16,659 from $35,862, and you get a net price of $19,203. And that would be the amount of money that this particular family would be expected to come up with to pay for University of Illinois under this scenario. Now, oftentimes, this is either done through savings. The 19.2 comes from savings. It can come from loans, which is on this page is not packaged, but the colleges will have a certain loans that you can tap into, sub-federal, others parent loans, and also they typically have private loans that they have relationships with. So the main purpose of the day is to just let you know that net price calculators do indeed exist on every college website. Now, one of the other things that families need to be aware of in the financial aid process is something called the FAFSA. So every year you have to fill a FAFSA while you got a student in college. And the FAFSA basically is a document that is required. And typically it opens October 1st. They revised the FAFSA. It had been essentially the same for 30 years or so, and they revised it this year, and they've had some snafus with it. Any of you that have older siblings going through the process know that the FAFSA has been delayed this year. The colleges aren't getting their numbers they need, but hopefully all those issues will be ironed out this year as they update the website and get it going. So the FAFSA basically indicates to the colleges what your financial picture is, which allows them to work up an award letter. Okay, some schools will ask you to fill out something called the CSS profile. These generally tend to be colleges of a more highly selective nature, and they will ask you for more in-depth financial questions as compared with the FAFSA. But we encourage all families to fill out the FAFSA. Once you do that, the information is sent to the colleges, and they will work up something called an award letter. So the award letters take the numbers off the FAFSA. They look at your financial situation, any merit aid, which is money that you may get for academic success or athletic aid. And they'll work up an award letter and give you a bottom line price. And typically the award letters come out in March and April. They may be slightly delayed this year because of the FAFSA snafus, But as a general rule, March and April is when your award letters come out. And then that's oftentimes utilized in making the financial decision. Okay. A couple other things. We have a financial aid night every fall where we bring in a expert on the financial FAFSA filling out process. And that typically is in September, so you'll want to watch your calendars for that. And FAFSA is a graduation requirement by the state of Illinois. So all students are required to fill out a FAFSA. You can opt out of it by filling out some paperwork in the guidance office, but generally speaking, the FAFSA is something that is required by the state of Illinois. So that pretty much covers the financial aid piece. I thank you very much. And I would like to introduce Jennifer Fisher again for the Feel Fit.
Thank you, Mr. Eubanks. Yes, so I'm here to talk about that third perspective, the feel fit, to round out our three lenses. So the feeling fit really is going to be probably best obtained by getting yourself on some college campuses, going on those campus visits. I always tell my students that a really great opportunity to do that is when we are off from school and the colleges are still in session. So for example, our spring break is probably different than the college's break because they often are earlier in end of February, early March. Another example would be we have an early release day. Actually, no, you don't have school. Sorry, March 1st, next Friday, you don't have school. And so that would be a great opportunity to visit a campus. But get yourself on a college campus and answer these questions. Do you feel comfortable at the college when you're walking around, when you're sitting in a classroom? How does it make you feel? Do you feel welcome there? Do you feel like you belong? Do the schools offer the experiences and the programs that you're interested in? Of course, like Mr. Dickerson was saying earlier, if you want to major in engineering, make sure they have an engineering program at that school. And then also, do the mission and cultures match what you're looking for? And again, getting yourself on campuses is going to be great. Another awesome opportunity is to meet with college representatives. And I'm going to talk about that and how you would go about that when they come to Hinsdale South in one of the next couple of slides. So our next slide is a feel fit example. These are three colleges that have very similar academic profiles as far as their GPA, and their SAT score. Those are the averages that they're typically looking for admissions. So of course, 50% or so are higher than that published GPA that you see on your screen, and 50% are going to be lower. But overall, Wheaton College, Oberlin, and Hillsdale have a very similar academic profile. They're also very similar in size. They're all liberal arts schools and have an undergraduate focus, and they're all in the Midwest. These pictures obviously show you too that they are beautiful campuses. However, if you are reading the quotations below the pictures, they have vastly different cultures and missions. And so if you're just looking at pictures and you're looking at the data and you're not getting yourself on campus and experiencing the culture and the mission, it could mislead you in a direction that you don't want to take. So some things to consider when you are visiting campuses are, what size do you want? That's usually what I ask my students. Actually, after location, I'll say, where do you want to be? And so a lot of our students tend to stay local, Midwest. But of course, we have students going abroad. We have students going down south. We have students going out west, all over the map, literally. So after location is usually size. What size are you looking for? Small, medium, large. And then some other things to think about. What is it like on the weekend? Do kids commute? And are a lot of kids going home on the weekends, or are they staying there and participating in that culture and, going to the football games and having a social life? And then also some other things to think about is, what are the focus of their academic programs? What are they known for at those particular schools? The next slide is going to just reinforce getting on campus. And so here are some pictures actually of us counselors. Some of them are older than others, visiting campuses. And that way, when we meet with our students, especially for those junior planning conferences and in conversations with students and parents, we can say, for example, oh, I've been on Kalamazoo's campus. Let me tell you more. Let me tell you about what I saw and what kind of, fit. Because of course, it's easier said than done, especially if you're going to take an airplane to go visit campuses. It's much easier to visit locally than it is to, visit further away. And a lot of our experiences as counselors is to visit these places. So collectively, we've seen a lot of schools. I don't want to say 3,000 like Mr. Dickerson said, but we've seen a lot of schools. And then the next slide just goes over how you would go about college rep visits. So every year, hundreds of universities come to Hinsdale South and they meet in small group settings with our students. And so here's just a snapshot of the Hinsdale South counseling site. And you can see there in red where it says college rep visits. That list is constantly changing. If you were to look at it right now, there's nothing on there. They are typically in the fall. So the college rep visits in the fall are going to be really geared towards seniors. So what is that updated profile that we just saw on a few screens before? What is the average accepted GPA? What is the average accepted SAT? What is the application essay question this year? And then those reps, since they're on campus meeting with students, can answer any questions that our students have. I usually tell my students, come up with 1 or 2 questions. And when you're either on campus or you're meeting with these reps, ask the same question. And that, something that is meaningful to you, but just pick out a question. Can you please tell me more about the housing? Can you tell me more about scholarship opportunities? I'm interested in being a teacher. Can you tell me about your student teaching opportunities and so forth? But meeting one-on-one with those reps and taking advantage of them being on the Hinsdale South campus is going to be so beneficial to especially the students, because it's your opportunity to ask questions directly to the experts who are coming to Hinsdale South. So I really encourage students and parents too, if you want to help, to keep an eye on that list. It's also in our announcements daily, and it's published, of course, in the announcements page as well. And then another important date that is coming up here is our District 86 College Fair. If you are a junior and you were on this call, or I know you're a junior parent, I would say this is something you don't want to miss. If you're able to come to Hinsdale South I'm sorry, I just said South. Hinsdale Central, I'm so used to saying that. Hinsdale Central on March 6th in their field house from 6 to 8. So this is a district-wide fair. We alternate every year between Central and South, and this year Hinsdale Central is hosting the college fair. There will be over 175 colleges and universities participating. And we ask that you, before you go, you register with that QR code. It'll be available, and we'll go over it at the Junior Planning Conference. It's going to be on our website. You're going to get emails about it. There'll be other opportunities to register for that fair. What makes it, what's helpful about you registering is then the colleges all have your information when you're there, and you can kind of check in when you're there to say, oh, I met with, University of Iowa, and then she'll have your information. Instead of filling out a form that she may have at her table, this is all done for you electronically prior to that evening. One thing I just wanted to, I forgot to say it in my intro portion that I really wanted to point out, because I get asked this question a lot. I talked about how applications are typically available around August 1st. But one thing I didn't mention, and I'm sorry, applications, if you put Halloween in your head as your deadline to be done with applications, that is a very popular deadline. November 1st is a very popular deadline for schools. And so I want students who are listening, and parents too, if students are done with their applications by Halloween, they shouldn't have really missed anything. Of course, every university is going to have a different published date of when they're accepting materials until. And so it's up to the student and the parents to be organized and making sure you're keeping track of those deadlines. But I really wanted to mention that timeline of basically August 1st through Halloween. That is when you are working on your applications for the most part. Of course, there's exceptions to everything. All right, well, that is all of that I have to say and that the counselors have to say. We are now going to turn it over to Mrs. Laura Jarman, one of our counselors, who's going to be introducing the college panelists who are here and volunteering their time to be with us tonight. Thank you.
Hello, thank you everybody for attending. I'm Laura Jarman, one of the counselors. We're super grateful for our college representatives that are taking the time out to join us on this program tonight. These students and families are very lucky to have you joining us and getting this very up-to-date information. So we are very grateful for you. Students and families that are on this Zoom with us, this begins kind of the kickoff for you. You've all been invited to a junior planning conference. And so tonight can be a little overwhelming, especially if you're the parent of, if it's your first child or your only child that, you know, you're planning for life after high school. Those of you who have done this before, I think it's a much lower stress level. But as maybe a first-time parent of somebody going to college, it can feel pretty overwhelming. We're here to guide you. You're going to have that junior planning conference, that opportunity to touch base with us and ask questions. You'll have a lot of resources. And we try to break things down into pieces for you. So my colleagues did a wonderful job. I was listening to them talk and I'm like, wow, I work with really talented people and I'm grateful for that. So I want to move forward and do some introductions of the college reps that we have tonight joining us, which is super wonderful. So our representatives, if you could just put your camera on, that would be outstanding. And just give a wave. We have Drake University here tonight, and we have Margaret Jones, or MJ. Thank you for joining us. And we have the University of Nebraska, Kristen Dowell. Hi, Kristen. Thank you for joining us. And we have Tulane, Amy Sethna. I'm not sure on pronunciations, but I did my best. Thank you. And we might be having College of DuPage join in a few minutes. But we're going to move forward with this panel. So our panelists have been given kind of their questions so that they can prepare a response in advance. But we're going to start with question one. We'll just maintain the order. We'll go with Drake, University of Nebraska, and then we'll go with Tulane and get an answer from each of you on these questions. So let's start with Drake. And we would consider your school to be what we call a mid-sized private school. What are some of the unique features of a school like yours?
Yes, thank you so much for that question, and thank you all so much for having me. So, as a representative at Drake University, we are, like Ms. Jarman said, a mid-sized private institution. So some unique characteristics of a mid-sized private institution typically just means that you get the best of both worlds. If you are a Hannah Montana fan like myself, I sing the song quite often when I am working with students, but we have all of the resources and the internships and the support of a large state school, but we have the personalization and the personal mentorship of a very small liberal arts school. So you not only have a D1 athletics program and several opportunities for interning or studying abroad, but you also get to know your professors. They get to know you and what your goals are, and then they get to really have a hand in helping you to get to whatever that next step is.
Fantastic. Thank you for that response. Same question. When we talk about the University of Nebraska, that's what we would consider a flagship state school. Can you answer that question of some unique features about your school?
Hi, everyone. So when I think large state flagship school, we're normally that flagship means that we're the University of Nebraska and the University of Nebraska system, right? So not only are we representing our university system, we're often, most of the time, representing a whole entire state, which is a really cool vibe. If you come to University of Nebraska, everyone in the state of Nebraska is about the University of Nebraska. Our football stadium on game days becomes the third largest city in Nebraska. So a lot of times at large state public flagship institutions, you'll get some really big, crazy athletics. If you ever watch college football in the fall, most of those schools you see are schools like Nebraska. Also, we are a Research One institution, which means that we have the highest level of research happening on our college campuses. We receive a lot of federal funding to do that research as well. So if that's something you're interested in, you can find plenty of opportunities at Nebraska or schools like Nebraska. Also, there's so many clubs and activities. So a lot of times larger public institutions can scare students and parents a little bit because you don't want to get lost, but we have so many clubs and activities that you can join. It just makes that college campus feel even smaller, even more close-knit. So that's about Nebraska and large public state flagships.
Thank you so much. All right, let's look at our highly selective school, which is Tulane. What would you say some of the unique features are of a school like yours?
I think from the get-go, when it comes to admission, because we are highly selective, we're not just looking at the academic section. We're really focusing on that holistic overview of a student. So they kind of have to bring their A game in a little bit of everything. So the academic section, I'm looking at test scores or if the school's test optional or not, but also looking at fit is really important for highly selective schools. We want to make sure that the student isn't just solely focused on the academics. So looking at their personal statements, any optional statements, making sure students are involved. We're kind of looking for like that full package kind of student, which can be a little intimidating. But with being a highly selective school, we're getting tens of thousands of applications for a class size that's roughly around 2,000 students. So looking for students who have ideas and have visions, but also reflecting on our own personal goals. Tulane focuses a lot on service, public service specifically. So seeing how students want to get involved with, for us, for example, the city of New Orleans. So highly selective schools, we're looking for that total package student in a way, but students who care. They care about their community, they care about those around them and want to be an asset and not just someone that's like, I'm just here for 4 years to get in and out.
Thank you. And we also would like to hear from College of DuPage. Evan Harvey, thanks for joining us. We're responding to question 1, where we would consider College of DuPage to be our local community college. What are some of the unique features of a school like the College of DuPage?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think I was on the parent and student side, so I had to hop in here real quick. But thanks for having me. In regards to a community college, we're really talking about any kind of student can go to a community college, right? But why are they going to a community college? There's a variety of reasons. A lot of community colleges offer short-term certificate programs. So if you're someone who doesn't necessarily want to get an associate's or bachelor's degree, there are a lot of varying programs, anywhere from 12 to 20 credit hours that students can obtain and then take that into a high-paying, high-wage career that's going to reward them after high school, just a relatively short time, after they graduate. And when we talk about associate degrees, there's really 2 main kinds of associate degrees: an associate of applied science. That's going to give you all the skills and certifications, whether it's local or national certifications, to give you, again, a high-paying, rewarding career just 2 years after high school. We also have Associate of Science and Associate of Art programs, where students are going to have the opportunity to transfer to 4-year colleges, not only in the state of Illinois, outside of Illinois, not only to public schools, to private schools. Really, any kind of student can start at a community college. And a big reason why a lot of students do is that affordability, right? So COD specifically is a taxpayer-based institution. If you're in District 502, you've been paying taxes to your local community college, and that's what helps us keep tuition at $144 per credit hour. Something you're also going to get at a community college is smaller class sizes. So if, big, large lecture hall with anywhere from 100 to 500 students, if that's something that, makes you uncomfortable, why not start at a community college and potentially be in anywhere from a classroom size of 12 to 22 students, where there's a really big focus on student to faculty connection and facilitation.
Fantastic. Thank you. Moving on to question 2. What other schools would you consider to be similar to your school? So depending on what type of school, whether you're that mid-sized private school or highly selective, if you can name some of your competition for that size, and we'll keep the same order. We'll go with Drake, Nebraska, Tulane, and then College of DuPage, and I'll just let you guys kind of answer those at your own pace, okay?
Sure thing. So, some of our biggest competitors and schools who look like us at Drake are going to be Bradley University in Peoria. A lot of students who apply to Bradley also apply to Drake. It does help that we're also in the same athletics conference, so we do play each other quite often. We are also very similar to St. Louis University, which is where I'm from. So I did a lot of my like dual enrollment credits there and like looked at a lot of schools that look like SLU. And then Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin is very similar. And then Butler University in Indianapolis are also very similar to us.
Yes, when I am in Illinois recruiting students and, obviously representing the University of Nebraska, I do use University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign as kind of a starting point just because U of I is the flagship institution of the state of Illinois system and here in the state of Illinois. And also we are in a Big Ten conference with them. But as even more of a fill, I would consider University of Iowa, Iowa State, University of Kansas to be more schools that feel like University of Nebraska to me. And that's because University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign has around 44,000 students. So that is really leaning into that large public fill, where University of Nebraska only has 25,000 students. So we're quite a bit smaller than some of our, Big Ten peers in our conference with us. And, we're flagship, just a little bit smaller. So a lot of times I will, extend to say an Iowa State, a University of Kansas, really kind of feel like University of Nebraska as well. So those are my comparisons.
For more highly selective schools with us, you're kind of, in a way, you're kind of looking at who has the similar acceptance rates. So some of our peer institutions are anywhere from like Emory to George Washington, Boston College, University of Southern California. For Tulane specifically, it's kind of hard. We have peer institutions in different ways, not just those highly selective schools, but then also sometimes some of our peer competitors. I hate saying competitors because we all want to help students in the long run. But at the same time, University of Michigan, the UC system schools, those can also be similar schools in different aspects. But for highly selectives, it all comes down to similar acceptance rates.
In regards to community colleges, at their core, every community college is going to be the same in regards to the degree completion, that they offer. A common phrase to call a community college or a JUCO is a 2-year college. So you're looking at the highest degree obtainable is your associate degree. Most community colleges also have a plethora of certificate programs that are stackable, meaning you can do the certificate program, get the base certifications, and if you want to continue on, you're pretty much you're almost halfway done with that associate degree if you continue to move on. But that's not to say that every community college is different, right? I would say at COD, we're different just because of our student body. We're the largest community college in the state and one of the largest in the country. Our enrollment's right around 23,000 students, where, if you look at Harper College, they're right around 15,000, and numbers, continue to go down from there. But at its core, like I mentioned, you're looking at 2-year degrees with small class sizes, transfer opportunities for students to go to 4 years and beyond. That the ultimate academic goal is. Community colleges are also founded on being very resourceful for their students, and having extra service, whether it's career services, tutoring center, just to help students navigate the beginning of their college journey so that they can complete the goals that they have in mind.
Wonderful, thank you. We're going to move on to our third question. Please tell us how your institution uses the SAT and the ACT. Are there benefits or drawbacks to students submitting a test score?
This is a very great question. Thank you. So at Drake University, we are actually test free. So at Drake, it just means we don't look at it at all. Even if it happens to come over on a transcript or in any other way, we just kind of close our eyes and pretend we never saw it at all. It has no impact on your scholarship decision at Drake or your admissions decision at Drake. So there is a test optional pathway that you could select if you feel the need to submit test scores because you don't believe that your transcript could stand on its own. But typically, we do not look at it at all in our admissions or scholarships at Drake.
Yes, University of Nebraska, we are a test optional for admission purposes. So that means if you have that 3.0 GPA, you don't need to submit a test score to be admitted to Nebraska. But if you're below that, you could submit a test score to meet our performance requirement. So test scores just give you an opportunity to still get into Nebraska. And then we are test preferred for scholarships, which means you can get scholarship money without submitting a test score, but you might get better scholarship money if you submit a test score. And that's really something I've been seeing with a lot of my peer institutions that are large publics, especially Big Ten institutions. They may not be using it for admission purposes, but they are using it to award scholarship money, especially that substantial high scholarship money. Test scores are still being used.
Here at Tulane, we are test optional for both the the application admission process and also scholarship process. I tell my students every year for us specifically, the test score mid 50 percentile range is going up and up and up, and it's because the students with the highest test scores are the ones submitting them. So it's a really inflated range in my opinion. So I tell students, if you think your test scores speak to your academic performance, they're on par with your GPA, feel free to submit. I always tell them, if you want to whisper it to me, I can't hold it against you when you submit your application. So I always want to be your biggest advocate. But again, it can only help your application. It can't hurt it. And it doesn't have any impact on scholarship awards.
So most community colleges aren't going to require any testing in any format whatsoever. Most community colleges operate on open enrollment status, meaning all you really need to do is go online and submit an application, and you'll be admitted to that community college. From that standpoint, we just want to see you show a level of college level readiness, and that can be done through a multitude of ways. At COD and other community colleges, they will require placement testing, and you have to meet a certain threshold to register into your basic college gen eds like a math or English. If you're going into a STEM field, you're going to have to do a little bit better on the math placement. At COD, we use what's called the ALEKS PPL math placement test. And that is an adaptive exam, meaning the better you do, the harder it gets, right? So our students who are looking to get into, calculus or anything in the STEM field, they're going to want to shoot for a higher score on the ALEKS than somebody who's just taking, quantitative reasoning or college algebra.
All right, great answers. Thank you. We're going to move on to our last question. And we have about 7 or 8 minutes to get all of your responses in to kind of wrap this up around 8 o'clock for our audience. So the last question we're going to have tonight lets you focus on your schools. You've been very generous talking about the type of school and just educating our parents and students, but this is a chance for you to brag about your school. And so the last question is, please share with us a few highlights of your college. It could be academic, it could be athletic, it could be scholarship, campus life. What are you most proud of? What's a big draw for your school? What do you want the students and families from Hinsdale South and us counselors? What do you want us to know about your school?
Yeah, I think, this is all of our time to shine. So I'll keep it brief, but one of the best things that I love about Drake is its size. So the fact that it is resources, like I said, and activities and experiences that you could get at a large public institution, while also being able to get to know people deeply. So at Drake, we really value personal mentorship. So we always have at least 3 people who are following you throughout your college journey. I like to call us a hand-holding institution, and we're going to be a place that is going to support you through whatever you're going through, whether that is, I'm looking for a job, or I'm struggling in a class, or I just really wanted to study abroad and you don't have any options for me where I really wanted to go. So at Drake, I like to say that we hold your hand until we place it in someone else's. And so if you are that type of person who needs support like that, or that's just reassuring for you to have, or sometimes parents want their students to have that, that is definitely something you're going to have at Drake. The other 2 things that I'll mention really quickly are our athletic programs. So even though we are a medium-sized and on the smaller end of a medium-sized school, we are a Division I athletics program at Drake. And so sometimes people are a little bit confused by that, but currently our men's and women's basketball team are first in the Missouri Valley Conference. So we're hoping to see them make an appearance at March Madness this year. And then the last really great thing about Drake is our live mascot, Griff 2. So if you don't follow him on social media, he is a great little bulldog. He's a very senior dog. We have dog beds for him in every building, but he is always around waiting for student snuggles. So definitely follow him on TikTok and on Instagram at DrakeUGriff. Thanks, y'all.
One of my favorite things about the University of Nebraska-Lincoln that surprised me, being an Illinois student that went to University of Nebraska, is that we are located in the 3rd largest city in the Big Ten Conference as it currently stands. And that surprises people when they come to Lincoln and we're in downtown Lincoln and they realize, oh, you're actually in a really large city, a city of over 300,000 people, really safe and affordable downtown. Also, my other thing would be that we did break a world record as the university this fall, a women's sporting world record. We had 90,000 people come to a women's volleyball match in our football stadium. So world record, if you want to break those, come to Nebraska. The state of Nebraska really shows up to support the university. We still have the NCAA sellout streak for football. And if you've been following Nebraska football, we've had some rough years. So I would say at Nebraska, we will support you even when you're down a little bit. And my last thing would be that scholarships at Nebraska are really great for Illinois students. We actually bump Illinois students up a level on our scholarship lineup just for living in Illinois. So it's a really great opportunity to come, be at a smaller flagship institution. I enjoyed it in Illinois, like I said, and went to Nebraska. So thank you.
Try to keep it brief. For Tulane, we're also a medium-sized school, but one of my favorite things to talk about is the interdisciplinary and flexibility of our curriculum. So when students are accepted to Tulane, they're automatically accepted into all 5 of our undergrad schools. So liberal arts, business, science and engineering, architecture, and public health. They don't have to decide until the end of their sophomore year. So you have 2 years to just kind of come into your own space and figure out what do you actually like. With us, we're also a Division I school. So right behind me is Yeoman Stadium football team. Woohoo! We have a new head coach, so we're in the Summerall era. Really excited for our football team this upcoming fall. 2 last things. We're in the city of New Orleans. You honestly can't beat it. If you don't like food, this might not be a place for you. But with New Orleans, there are more festivals than days in the school year. So we are a very community-focused school. We were actually the first research institution. We're also Research One, but first research institution to require public service as part of our core curriculum. So students have 2 tiers to complete. It's more like experiential learning. What you're learning in the classroom, you're able to tie it into a nonprofit sector, community-based organizations, schools in the greater New Orleans area. So again, very community-focused, a lot of interdisciplinary learning opportunities, and a lot of school spirit. You can't beat it living in New Orleans.
All right, lastly here, save the best for last, right, guys? Oh, okay. So at COD, we have over 23,000 students. So like I mentioned, it's one of the largest community colleges in the nation. So when you're coming to COD, we're always trying to destigmatize the junior college and the community college, right? But you're going to get a different experience. With our statistics and diversity, we're always talking about diversity of thought. You're going to meet people from all walks of life. We have an international base of students. Everyone who comes to COD contributes to the atmosphere with over 60 student clubs and organizations. We participate in the National Junior College Athletic Association with 15 sports. So if you're someone who's maybe feeling, you're not getting the attention that you maybe should as an athlete, going to a junior college is a great opportunity to only put yourself more scouting tape out there to potentially move up to a Division III, Division II, Division I school. As you know, as the local option, COD is nestled in Glen Ellen on a beautiful 254-acre campus with natural areas. There's ponds, forests, and nature preserves. And lastly, in regards to what we can offer any kind of student, regardless of what their path is, if it's short-term, an associate degree, or even any of our hundreds of transfer pathways where we're sending students to private universities, to selective admission universities, and your public Big Ten, anywhere in the country is really doable by starting a College Edu page with the transferability of our credits. And by doing a 2+2 program or 3+1 program articulation agreement at $144 a credit hour, you're going to be saving thousands and still be able to get to your final goal and achieve it. Thank you.
I want to go to every single one of your colleges. It's clear that you have a lot of pride and that you're excited about the programming that you have. And I appreciate you. We appreciate you sharing all that enthusiasm, such exciting opportunities for our students. So very grateful for your attendance in this tonight. Our students and families that joined us, most of you, they stuck around most of the night. We had about 100 students and families on here, which is excellent. We are going to share the contact emails of our representatives. And so they are there to help you. And maybe one of these schools is one of the schools that you're considering. And so they would love an email from you with questions and anything that you want to ask. I'm sure they'd be happy to respond to you. And counselors, we do a good job of trying to form those relationships with you guys. So if you guys have any questions for us as counselors, at Hinsdale South, please reach out to us as well. So again, thank you everyone for coming. I hope that you found tonight to be fruitful. I hope that you don't feel completely overwhelmed. We are going to work with you. We are going to break it down into steps, and you will get more personal information when you come to your junior planning conference, which you have all received an email. Those can be attended via Zoom, they can be in person, but please make sure you check your email if you have not seen that email for that private junior planning conference. And I don't think I have anything else to add. Again, thank you to those reps that came on tonight. They were excellent, probably one of the best panels we've had in a long time. So we're grateful for that. And students and families, thank you so much. We look forward to working with you at that junior conference and helping support you through this process. Have a good night, everyone.